All right, public speaking tip number 15. Learn to speak with confidence. Get big. You know it. Get big. Public speaking tip number 15. Learn to speak with confidence. So how do you do that? How do you do it? You know, we've been talking speaking now for the last few weeks. We're on tip number 15. You've been along for the ride. You've heard some of the best speakers that we've had so far. We've got more to come. We have more to come. It's amazing. But this week, we need to talk about learning to speak with confidence. You know, there's this quote that's going around where it says that public speaking is one of the biggest fears known to man. It's one of those big phobias. People are extremely afraid of standing up and speaking. And so they're almost at an automatic disadvantage when we talk about speaking with confidence. And I don't know if you know it or not, but if you're not confident when you stand up on stage to speak, if you're not confident, you know, you don't have to be big and all right, I don't have any muscles. Oh, okay. All right, I don't have any muscles. But if you're not confident when you stand on stage to speak, you've got a problem. Because people don't really follow people who aren't confident or speakers who lack confidence. They just don't. I wish I could change it for you. I wish I could change the rules, but they don't. And so here's what I'll tell you. You know, there's a couple of things I could share with you. Number one being something I learned back in 2006 when I was going through a major transition in life. I was going through a transition in the United States Navy. Old guy who'd been in the Navy probably a half a century. He was an old fella, but he was a good fella. Mr. Mike Williamson, old Master Chief Mike Williamson. You know, he walks up to me one day and we're having a little discussion. And I guess he saw some potential in me. And he said something that kind of caught me off guard, and I really didn't understand it. But he said, get a coach. Yeah. Old Mike said, get a coach. You see, I think what Mike knew is that when you care enough about yourself and your own success, when you care enough to get a coach or a mentor or someone that you can learn from, and you prove that you're willing to learn, and you work with someone who's gifted and talented and can see you for who you are, and some people who can see past all of that stuff that you've got going on, and they can see the potential inside of you. And it's something I've become extremely good at over the last 20, 30 years, is seeing something inside of people, especially speakers and people who are positive and ambitious and who have dreams and desires and goals. But you work with someone like that. You know, you get a coach. It transforms your life. You sit down with them. Someone whose their only job is to look at the way that you're playing the game, to understand how you're playing the game, and to understand the results that you're looking to produce and achieve. And they work with you one-on-one. Coaching is awesome. Coaching is awesome. So that's my number one tip for learning to speak with confidence. Work with a coach. Get with a coach. All right? Next tips I would say is know what you're going to talk about and why. It's something we've been talking about for the last few videos, but know what you're going to talk about and why. Because when you know what you're going to talk about, it's easy to be confident about what you're going to talk about. It's easy to prepare, practice, and rehearse what you're going to talk about. And it's easier to get up there and talk about it. Yeah, it's a whole lot easier. So get a coach. Know what you're going to talk about and why. Have your speech, and this is number 3, right? Have your speech and your ideas organized and sequenced so that they're easy to follow. Now, one of the other things that, if you've been following me for a while, you know one of the things that I always say, I say, share a story, make a point. Share a story, make a point. Share a story, make a point. Share a story. Take them home. Right? But we're not just sharing stories. And don't forget that these stories, they can be replaced with facts, figures, quotes, anecdotes. You know, it doesn't always have to be a story. It can be a fact, a figure, a quote, an anecdote, something that happens in a sequence. Maybe it's the chronological method that we talked about several videos back. But you take them through the story. You take them through the story. Story, fact, figure, quote, anecdote, make a point. Story, fact, figure, quote, anecdote, make a point. Story, fact, figure, quote, anecdote, make a point. Carry them home from point A to point B. That's your job. That's what you do, right? And sequence it so that the sequence of your stories is natural. From point A to point B, you remember exactly the first story that you're going to share with them. You remember the second story, fact, figure, quote, or anecdote that you wanted to share with them. You remember the point. The point was the reason that you shared that story with them. You do that. Sequence it, right? Story number one, point number one. Story number two, point number two. It becomes easy. You don't have to remember all the words. It becomes easy. You're sequencing the story from point A all the way over to point B. Get them on the bus, remember? Put them on the bus. Segue and transition from story to story, point to point. Get them off the bus at their destination. Make sure they're happy. Okay? And then, as you're doing all that, the most important thing that you could do, because you're working with a coach, and if you don't have a coach, then you know exactly what you're going to talk about, and you know why you're going to talk about it, and it's something that's mutually beneficial for you and your audience. And then you know that you've got your story sequence from 1, 2, 3. And these are stories, they're your stories, or stories you've learned, stories you've put in your back hip and you're ready to share. You've got them sequenced from start to finish in the amount of time that you've been allotted to speak. So you're going to do that. And then here's the magical secret. Practice, 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 rehearse, get good, and have fun. That's it. You want to speak with confidence? Practice, rehearse, get good, have fun. Sequence the events. Sequence your talk from point A to point B. Okay? Rehearse it. Get good. Know what you're going to talk about and why. And if you're lucky, if you're serious, if you're ready to take your presentation skills to the next level, get a coach. Get a coach. That's public speaking tip number 15. Learn to speak with confidence. Get a coach. Get a coach. And hey, if you haven't gotten a coach, at least get the book. Remember this one? Hey, this one right here, this is my copy. This is your copy. Get your copy of the book. Let's get good. Practice, rehearse, get good, have fun. That's speaking tip number 15. Hey, join me back here for number 16. We're going to have fun. We're going to take this all the way to 63. Woo! We're going to take it all the way to 63. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, friends.